Okay, I've been watching a number of videos from H.A. Goodman, mostly about the DNC fraud lawsuit being dismissed. And I have to admit, I did have some hope of it going forward. But the truth is that it was bound to hit a snag in our legal system, which has been compromised entirely by partisan interests. I'm going to pull up an article, maybe I'll be able to show it. Well, for those of you that don't have any background, the DNC fraud lawsuit was, let me see this. Okay, I'm going to bring up something from Medium by Caitlin Johnstone. And I'll probably not be able to go very long on this video. I do have to go do some actual work. But this is from Caitlin Johnstone, and she's a colleague of Goodman. And what you have to remember here is that these were people, they don't agree in any shape or form with the ideas that I do, but they contributed to a political party and to a candidate in the 2016 election, more to the candidate, to Bernie Sanders. And what they got in return was basically a process that was completely and utterly fraudulent. That's why it's called the DNC fraud lawsuit, because first of all, you had a system where more data sharing and general aid was given to one candidate, Hillary Clinton, than it was to any of the other candidates. And that's not just Bernie Sanders. It was the other candidates, Webb, O'Malley, there was another weirdo, Lincoln Chaffee. And the result was a foregone conclusion. They limited all of the debates to about 6. Then they started leaking questions to Hillary Clinton, leaking questions from debates. That's what happened with Donna Brazile. Now, Donna Brazile was not the head of the DNC at the time, but she was, she was in a certain sense the, I think she was the vice chair, in fact. So you have a DNC official working for CNN, using CNN information to tilt certain parts of the contest for her preferred candidate. That's what happened in that election. And it says here, the oldest political party in the world has died. It doesn't know it yet. It isn't acting like it yet, but it is dead. By successfully getting the DNC fraud lawsuit dismissed by Judge William J. Zloch today, the Democratic Party has succeeded in killing any argument for its continued existence as a legitimate political party. The premise of the DNC fraud lawsuit was simple. The Democratic National Committee promised voters an impartial party primary in 2016. It did not deliver them what it promised. By taking donations from people who believed its promise of impartiality, it committed fraud in the same way a company selling a product labeled sugar-free would be committing fraud if its product was loaded with maple syrup. Article 5, Section 4 of the DNC Charter, also known as the Impartiality Clause, reads as follows. The chairperson shall exercise impartiality and even-handedness as between the presidential candidates and campaigns. The chairperson shall be responsible for ensuring that the national officers and staff of the Democratic National Committee maintain impartiality and even-handedness during the Democratic Party presidential nominating process. Then it goes into the WikiLeaks and Podesta emails, so showing that the DNC and the Clinton camp were colluding as early as 2014 to schedule debates and primaries in a way that favored her. Then DNC Vice Chairwoman Donna Brazile, acting as a mole against the Sanders campaign and passing Clinton questions in advance to her to prep her for debates with Sanders, all demonstrate a clear and undeniable violation of the Impartiality Clause. The DNC Charter was revised with this promise to the American people in order to prevent a Dem exit after the 1968 fiasco in Chicago, and in 2016, they undeniably broke this promise. So what does that exactly mean? To this image here. What this means is that the DNC is it's basically violated basically a rule that it instituted following the 1968 National Convention in Chicago, where basically the convention was fixed in order to nominate Vice President Humphrey, and against anti-war candidates. There were a number of anti-war candidates that year. Humphrey was not an anti-war candidate. So Humphrey was chosen in order to keep the Democratic establishment in power. It's one of the reasons that the Democrats of the 70s fractured along racial and political and ideological lines. There were the hardcore far-right Democrats under George Wallace. There were the centrist Democrats like Humphrey and Lyndon Johnson. And then there was another faction, the more progressive part of the party, under Bobby Kennedy. Of course, Kennedy was murdered in 1968. As many would know, Bobby Kennedy was murdered by an assassin. Sirhan is the person who was convicted of the assassination. There's all sorts of theories about what happened with that, but that's not really something I have good knowledge of, so I'm not going to comment on it. But the point of this whole issue is that now we see the final end of the social justice myth. The social justice myth goes like this. It says that if you push policies that are for the greater good and that promote equality for all, then good will ultimately triumph in the end. That's the way I see it, okay? Maybe other people will define it otherwise. They think that social justice is something like that you push policies that are for the greater good and for redressing historic disparities and injustices, and that eventually good wins out. Well, that's never been the truth, and it's not the truth today or Friday when this happened. No, the system was in charge of the courts. The system, the justice system. Those of you that call for social justice, you should be aware that you cannot have social justice when the people that hold all of the keys to giving social justice have no interest in giving it to you. And social justice is such an amorphous and bizarre term. I've had people come up to me and talk to me about what social justice is. They don't know what the fuck it is. It doesn't really have a definition. It's a completely made-up term that people use to, they'll make claims that's what they see as the way to create a better society. But it means something different for everybody else. You have to be a lot more specific for it to have any effect. And when you take the social justice agenda and you put it in the regular court system and the regular political system, you do not get social justice. You get a corruption of it. You get anti-social justice. That's what happened. And the Democratic Party, which has for the better part of the last 40 years, has started to move along the social justice platform and talk about it more and more publicly. This is the ultimate culmination of that lie. They are a party that they build most of their platform in terms of domestic policy, at least, on these platitudes towards social justice, this bullshit about giving people, their latest platform, better jobs, better wages, and better, what was it? It was better, and that doesn't even make sense. It was SJW, it's spelled out. Better, I don't even remember. There was something with an S. But the other two were better jobs and better wages. Well, they haven't delivered on any of that in the 40, and their platform hasn't really changed. They just rearranged the words. They haven't had any real engagement with their party base, apart from giving them vague notions that they're going to be more receptive. And then when they get elected to office, they do stab them in the back. There's nothing you can say to contradict that. If you're a progressive and you've been following the Democratic Party for 40 years, there's no reason to trust them. There's no reason at all. I mean, I'm going to bring up something, but I have to find it. So it's going to be a little rough going for a second. Hold on. Let me stop presenting. I mean, I'm gonna show you exactly what these people are talking about in reality. They don't have any core to their belief system. Let me see if this is the one. Okay, yeah, this is hold on. Let me share this screen. This is Maureen Dowd of the New York Times. This is December 8th, 2016, while Barack Obama was still in office. And she's talking about a fucking shoe store. She's talking about She Knows Shoes. The charming SJP opens her, Sarah Jessica Parker opens her glittering shoe store in DC's flashy MGM casino. This is a month before Trump takes office, and this person, who's one of the most anti-Trump journalists that there is, she's hanging with a Hollywood elite celebrity opening a luxury shoe store in Washington, D.C. Do you think those people really represent an alternative to, I don't know, can you guys see it? I hated that you have to press this button twice. But this woman, she claims to be speaking for, you know, the progressive side, or whatever it is of the political aisle, progressive, liberal, whatever the fuck you want to call it. She was basically on her knees for Barack Obama for 8 years. And this is the type of person that she hobnobs with, these frauds, these people that they go their entire careers and try to make it seem like they're you know, they're in favor of progressive issues. They're not from favor. I mean, they put on a progressive coat, but the underwear is all money, money, money. It's all the same as at least with me, at least with a lot of the other people that that we are you know, conservative, libertarian, whatever you want to call, are, you know, free market capitalist. We don't pretend to do that. We don't give a fuck about social justice because we don't believe it's a real thing. It's a complete made up piece of nonsense that people make up. It's the Occupy Wall Street. A lot of these celebrities promoted Occupy Wall Street while they invested in Wall Street, and people bought it. And then when Occupy Wall Street fell apart, when Occupy Wall Street fell apart, these people, they went on to the next bullshit cause, whatever it was, Black Lives Matter, another movement that was hijacked in the name of their interests. You could talk about endless. I mean, look at this feminist frequency. This Anita Sarkeesian. She got the taste of the money, and now she's making, you know, all that cash on the backs of just claiming that she's a victim. That's the way it works. That's the way the social justice industry works. And for those that actually want to pursue it, that actually want to pursue real claims of injustice, like Jared and Elizabeth Beck, the lawsuit lawyers, those people get elbowed out. There's no room for that, because you cannot pursue social justice in America while going against the interests of the people that are that they're preventing social justice from occurring. You can't threaten the power of the elites. That's how you get the Goliath effect. You know, when Goliath wins, they don't take no prisoners. Okay, there's this bizarre notion on the left that they are bringing to head the they're bringing out a social revolution where the new generation will redress the wrongs of the past. That's never happened. In the 60s, there were all these people that they promoted the same ideals as the social justice warriors today, and then they took over the same facilities, you know, the same universities, and like the University of Michigan or wherever it was. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. They basically they joined the system, and then they started calling for. I mean, they would continue to use the same language as they did in the past. It's just that now they do have the power to engage in social change, but they don't do it. They really don't do it. And when they do, it's some sort of mutated nonsense that doesn't actually accomplish anything. It hasn't brought any change to America. In fact, you could say that there was more social justice before the 60s and this this Aquarian revolution than there is now, because now you have the people who engaged in it that are active participants in doing this type of oppression and creating a more closed-minded and intolerant society in a different way. So that's about it for today. Maybe there'll be a video later. I'm just very busy. I'm moving a lot of stuff, and we'll talk to you next time I see you. I'm trying to get together a couple interviews, maybe tonight, maybe this week. I don't know yet, but thanks everybody, those of you that are going to watch this, and have a good Sunday.